Hello, and welcome to this brief overview and tutorial provided for Symposium chairs and vice chairs participating in Corrosion 2017 in New Orleans. I am Jacob Adams, Symposium Manager in the Technical Activities Department at NACE International. This brief presentation will go over the roles and responsibilities for participating as a Symposium chair or vice chair for Corrosion 2017. In Part 1, I will go over the important deadlines for Symposium officers to note, the available resources for them to complete any necessary reviews, comments, or approvals, and troubleshooting tips. I will also provide high-level guidance on preparing for your trip to Corrosion 2017 in New Orleans, and an officer's responsibilities once they arrive on site at Corrosion. In Part 2, contained in a separate video, we'll finish up with a brief tutorial on the NACE website on how to use the paper trail tool. Part 1 of this presentation should last approximately 25 minutes. I encourage you to watch this video in its entirety, but please feel free to come back and consult this recording as a reference throughout the process to answer any questions you may have. While NACE staff, such as myself, are available to answer any questions you may have, keep in mind that there are over 600 Symposium officers, technical reviewers, and authors that contribute to making Corrosion 2017 a success. Depending on the time of your request, it may be difficult to receive an immediate answer. This video and other resources were created so that NACE volunteers have the answers to their most frequently asked questions readily available to them. Chances are you're watching this video because you're a Symposium chair or vice chair for Corrosion 2017. By this time, you should have received an email from me with instructions on how to complete the abstract review process to accept or reject the abstract submitted to your symposium. This process was to be completed by Friday, June 17th. If you have not completed this process, please contact me immediately. In Part 2 of this tutorial, I'll walk you through how to use the various functions of the paper trail system, as much of the work you will complete related to corrosion will occur within the paper trail system on our website. As a Symposium chair or vice chair, you are already in our database. It is extremely important that you use the email address and password that's already associated with your account on file. Do not create a new account. Your Symposium information is already linked to an existing Symposium listing. Creating a new account will not take you to where you want to be. If you do not know your username and password, please use the Forgot Password link on our website or contact a First Service representative to reset your password. Let's take a moment to briefly go over the important dates affiliated with Corrosion 2017. A more detailed list of deadlines can be found on page 2 of the Technical Program Manual. The key deadlines that you as a Symposium officer should record in your personal calendars are that Symposium chairs should send a complete list of reviewers to NACE staff by July 1st, 2016. If you've not done so already, please email me your complete list as soon as possible. The next important deadline is that Symposium chairs should assign reviewers to specific papers in Paper Trail by August 5th, 2016. In Part 2 of the tutorial, I will show you how to assign specific papers to reviewers. The reviewer deadline to submit comments to Symposium chairs is October 14th, 2016. The next deadline for you as a Symposium chair is to send comments to authors regarding their draft papers by November 4th, 2016. This gives you approximately 3 weeks to review the comments that reviewers submitted to the papers in your symposium. Symposium chairs should arrange the presentation order in Paper Trail by December 12th, 2016. Symposium chairs should then send comments to authors on the final papers by December 23rd, 2016. After the first of the year, the deadline to make any changes to the final program before it goes to print is January 16th, 2016. Then, The deadline for symposium chairs to mark final papers as approved in the paper trail system is January 27th, 2017. This is a firm deadline because NACE staff must proceed with the creation of the conference proceedings after this date. For symposium vice chairs, they must provide feedback to the presentation slides submitted by authors by February 27th, 2017. And lastly, vice chairs must approve the final presentation slides by March 10th, 2017. All of the deadlines listed on this slide are important, and more detail can be found in the technical program manual. I cannot stress enough how important calendar reminders can be your friend when it comes to serving as a symposium officer. Add calendar reminders now, early on in the process, to ensure that you have time to plan accordingly. It is recommended that symposium officers consult the job aid that was sent to them via email. If you cannot locate the email that I sent you with the job aid, it can also be found in the Resources tab of PaperTrail. This slide highlights the primary responsibilities of a symposium chair. As chair, you must review the technical program manual and job aid. You should attend the speaker breakfast the morning of your symposium, and keep your vice chair updated on all communications and developments. As chair, you're also responsible for accepting or rejecting the abstracts that were submitted to your symposium, and you should communicate with your authors as necessary throughout the process. You should review the symposium schedule for the advanced program to ensure that there's no conflict or overlap, and you should select and assign reviewers to specific papers. Symposium chairs must also manage extension requests for authors who cannot meet the stated deadlines, and you must request paper length waivers to the ACPC chair. This is something I'll go over in more depth in just a moment. Chairs should also review draft and final papers when the deadline occurs as necessary, and you should accept and reject draft papers based on the papers submitted and the feedback you receive from your technical reviewers. Chairs may also comment on draft papers. These comments may either support the findings of your technical reviewer or may include additional feedback that you want the author to incorporate into the next draft. As chair, you should also review and approve the final papers. An author will not have the ability to upload their presentation slide deck until the PDF of the final paper has been marked as approved by the chair. And lastly, symposium chairs must determine the order in which the authors will present their information the day of the symposium. This is a crucial element as it is the order that will be printed in the final program and that cannot be changed once we go to print. The responsibilities of a vice chair are very similar to a chair, but there's a few differences. Like the chair, the vice chair should review the manual and job aid and attend the speaker breakfast. The vice chair should also be available to assist the chair with anything they might need. In the event that a chair is not available to complete a task within PaperTrail, it is possible that the chair can request that the vice chair assist them in reviewing and approving drafts or final papers, or to help with the arrangement of the presentation order. This reinforces the importance of having communication between the chairs and vice chairs throughout the process. The vice chair will also be requested to review the symposium schedule before the advanced program goes to print. The vice chair may also be requested to comment on draft papers at the request of reviewers or at the request of their chair. And lastly, vice chairs are required to review and approve presentations prior to the deadline. Vice chairs should be checking for commercial bias to ensure there are no trade names, advertisements, or promotion of a company or product or service in the slides. Vice chairs should also check in with the speaker ready room on site at Corrosion prior to the start of their symposium to ensure any last minute changes to slides that were updated do not contain commercialism. This list is not necessarily exhaustive. There may be other responsibilities that will come up throughout the process leading up to the Corrosion conference. This just highlights the primary responsibilities for chairs and vice chairs. Extension requests. Extension requests are possible, but not encouraged, as it shortens the time frame for the other stakeholders to complete their required tasks related to the paper and presentation review process. Insufficient time to prepare a written paper is not a valid reason for an extension request. This is why all stakeholders are encouraged to add calendar reminders early so everyone can plan accordingly. Should an author require an extension, they must contact their symposium chair. The symposium chair must notify NACE staff of the approval and denial of such requests. The symposium chair should mention in the comments section of the paper trail why the extension was or was not granted. The request must occur at least 10 days prior to the stated deadline. An important thing to keep in mind is that the maximum draft paper deadline extension is 2 weeks, and only one extension request may be made during the entire process. For example, if an author requests an extension to upload their draft paper, they cannot receive an extension request for the final paper or presentation slide submittal. If an author cannot make the subsequent deadlines, they are at risk of having their paper withdrawn from the symposium program. Let's talk about paper length waivers. This is slightly different than an extension request. Authors should not use the extension request button in PaperTrail if it's for a paper length waiver. The maximum paper length for a technical paper is 15 pages. If you receive any paper within your symposium that exceed the 15-page limit, you must complete a waiver form and return it to myself, the NACE staff member, and Kimberly Joy Harris, the ACPC chair, for final approval. Keep in mind when filling out the form where it asks for the reason, stating that it is a well-written paper is not a valid reason for an extension request. It is the organization's intention to have all of the papers presented at Corrosion to be well written. Keep this in mind when completing the form and developing your rationale for requesting the paper length waiver. Copyright forms and copyright issues. Copyright forms must be completed by the primary author prior to uploading their paper. This form may not be altered or amended in any way. Authors have been encouraged to begin the copyright approval process early. Symposium officers cannot grant exceptions to authors who do not submit a form. No form means no paper or presentation can be presented at conference, and their paper will not be included in the published proceedings. There's no exceptions to this rule, and as I mentioned, addendums or amendments from companies are not accepted. On to the next topic of commercialism. So what exactly is commercialism? I'd like to start off by discussing trade names and what exactly that means. A trade name is a name given by a manufacturer or merchant to a product, process, or service to distinguish it as made or sold by the concern, which may or may not be used or protected as a trademark. Trade names may also refer to any name under which the concern does business. For example, a company name, association, or organization. This definition also includes company names, products, or software names. Visually, it would also include the logo of a company or product. No more than one reference to any trade name, company, or product may be made in the paper or presentation slides. If you discover a paper that does include a trade name, company, product, or logo more than once, you should request that the author remove it before allowing the author to proceed to the next step in the process. If it is discovered during the presentation on site that an author's slides contain commercialism, it is the symposium chair and vice chair's responsibility to interrupt the presentation to identify the commercialism. For those individuals that are inclined to reference trade names, a helpful resource was created and approved by the ACPC that indicates the common names of alloys. The list can be found in the Resources tab in PaperTrail. This list is not only helpful for authors, but for officers and reviewers that need to reference the list in the review process. After reviewing the paper for commercialism, you should be able to ask yourself, Did this paper read as an advertisement for a company, product, or service? You should be able to respond with no. If you respond with a yes, or the question gave you pause before answering, consider what made you say that and provide comments to the author on what must be changed in the paper to ensure that it does not contain commercialism. So what are some of the common pitfalls or issues or roadblocks that people run into when preparing for corrosion? The most common issue that we see is a lack of communication among symposium officers with their reviewers and authors. It's important to communicate early and often, especially if any issues arise, so everyone can plan accordingly. The second most common issue relates to deadlines. It's easy for time to slip away. NACE volunteers have competing commitments, including their day job and their family life. It's important to add those deadlines to their calendar to ensure that you can complete your tasks and requirements in a timely manner. This leads me to my next item, which is time management. It is easy to let time pass by until the day before the deadline and you quickly realize that you're not going to be able to complete your tasks. Check back in Paper Trail periodically to see that the authors are uploading their required materials and that reviewers are completing their tasks. Communicate as necessary to ensure that everyone has time to meet the required deadlines. One thing I want to mention again is commercialism. Please reference the documents available to you in the Resource tab of Paper Trail. Trade names and logos should not be used more than once in a paper or presentation. Papers and presentations should not serve as an advertisement for a company, product, or service. As a symposium officer, it's imperative that you review the technical program manual. Authors are required to review the manual and must sign off on the fact that they have read the manual prior to having the ability to upload their draft paper. As a symposium officer, it's important that you too understand the necessary requirements that are outlined in the manual so you can field any questions that you may receive from authors or from reviewers. Before we dig any deeper into the process, I want to highlight some changes that will occur with Corrosion 2017. First, the Technical Program Manual has been revised to streamline the requirements for authors to follow for their technical paper and presentation slides. This is to ease the burden on authors in a manner that relaxes the required formatting, yet preserves the Corrosion brand. Second, NACE staff will no longer participate in the review of technical papers. What this means for authors is that there will not be any editorial suggestions with regards to grammar or sentence structure in the review process. Authors have been made aware of this and have been asked to plan accordingly. Third, subject matter experts will still review the papers for technical and scientific accuracy as well as for adherence to the technical program manual that has been streamlined. Their primary focus will be on technical content and to assure that there are no issues with commercial bias, trade names, and company names in the paper. Reviewers are not responsible for grammar, sentence structure, or typographical errors. Grammar, sentence structure, and typographical errors are the responsibility of the author, not the reviewer. I know some of the following on this slide have already been mentioned, but I cannot stress their importance enough. The maximum page length for a technical paper is 15 pages. If you receive any papers within your symposium that exceed the 15-page limit, you must complete a waiver form and return it to myself, the NACE staff member, and Kimberly Joy Harris, ACPC chair, for final approval. Trade names should only be used once in a paper and presentation. Trade names should not appear in the title, abstract, figures, tables, or captions. Any mention of a trade name should be properly footnoted. And again, all authors must check a box in Paper Trail indicating that they have read, understand, and agree to comply with the Technical Program Manual. As a symposium officer, it's important that you read through the manual and understand it so you can hold the authors accountable. Throughout this presentation, you've heard me mention the Resource tab found in the Paper Trail system. I will show you a tutorial in just a moment to show you how to access the Resources tab, but right now you'll see a screenshot of what is provided for you for Corrosion 2017. While all of the resources are extremely important and helpful to you during this process, there are several I will stress that you access. The must-read 2017 Technical Program Manual. All volunteers should read this document, and it's a required read for authors participating in corrosion. The Guide to Paper Trail, Symposium Officers. This is an extremely helpful guide that will assist you with screenshots on how to use the paper trail system. As I mentioned, all of the documents found in the Resources tab are there to assist you. Everything you need to know about managing papers, submitting papers, formatting papers, reviewing papers, how to use paper trail, the job aid that was mentioned earlier in the presentation, and much, much more. If you find that you have a question or concern that is not addressed in one of these resource documents, please do not hesitate to contact me. While technological advancements have made our lives much easier in many regards, we recognize that sometimes there are a few bumps in the road when using technology, and paper trail is no exception. I just want to briefly touch on some issues you may encounter in the system with some quick fixes on how to troubleshoot them. One of the most commonly asked questions relates to issues with uploading documents to the paper trail system. More often than not, people have issues uploading documents because the file size is too large. If the Word document or PDF is greater than 10 MB, they will most likely get an error. Please reduce the file size and try to re-upload. The second issue is that authors try to upload the wrong file type. During the draft paper stage, the paper must be a Word document. During the final paper stage, it must be a PDF. If the paper is not the correct file type, they will be unsuccessful in uploading a document. If you have an author that is experiencing this issue, it's important to know that this may be the reason why. Every time you write a comment in the paper trail system, you must hit the Save button in the bottom right corner. The paper trail system would then send an automatically generated email to the author stating that there is feedback. Some officers and reviewers have issues with saving comments. This is because the system does not allow them to utilize special characters in the text box. If your comments must include such characters, it is best to put your comments into a Word document, save that Word document, and then upload that Word document with the comments as an attachment to the paper trail site and hit the Save button. In some instances, you may receive some sort of error message when attempting to upload a file. This could be due to security settings or firewall restrictions set by your employer or specific browser settings on your computer. This is more likely to happen for our authors or reviewers that are affiliated with academic institutions or the military, as they tend to have more strict security. Please contact your IT department to resolve the issue, or perhaps attempt to access the system from a home computer. While it can be frustrating at times to deal with technology, it is important that you do not email your files directly to reviewers, authors, or NACE staff. The only way for the progress of the technical papers and presentations to be tracked are within the paper trail system. A string of emails going back and forth can also make it increasingly difficult to track feedback or changes and to ensure that you're meeting the required deadlines. If your files are not uploaded in the system by the set deadlines, there's a risk that the paper or presentation will be withdrawn from the Symposium program. Now, what to do once you're on site in New Orleans? Once you arrive at the convention center, please check in at the registration desk to obtain your badge and program. Once you get settled, Vice Chair should locate the speaker ready room and check in with the audiovisual staff to ensure the presentations are uploaded and that no new slides have been uploaded and are in need of review. If there are slides that need to be reviewed, please do so to ensure there are no issues of commercial bias or promotion and advertisement prior to the start of your symposium. The morning of your symposium, there will be a speaker's breakfast that will go over important information. This provides you with an opportunity as a symposium officer to interact with your authors and to communicate any specific information that you may want to share with your group. This also provides an opportunity for the authors to ask you any questions, so it's important that you should attend. Should you have any issues that come up on site, please notify myself or a fellow NACE staff member to see if we can assist you. Lastly, it is crucial that you show up to your symposium room on time. Many of our technical symposia last an entire day, which includes 16 to 18 presentations. It is important that our presenters stick to the schedule as not to delay other presentations. So as a symposium officer, it is your responsibility to ensure the presentations stay on track and stick to the allotted time for each presenter. Many attendees come and go to see a particular presentation that may interest them, so it's important that we stick to the schedule as closely as possible. If you still have any questions after reviewing this presentation and after reviewing the resources found in the Resource tab of PaperTrail, please don't hesitate to contact me. My email address is found here on this slide, jacob.adams@nace.org. And I just want to say that each and every one of you are a key to making Corrosion 2017 a success. And we ask that you be mindful of the deadlines and that you ask questions if you're unsure about something. I and my fellow colleagues at NACE are here to help you, and we appreciate you and the hard work that you are doing to make your symposium and Corrosion a successful conference. I look forward to working with you in the next several months, and I look forward to seeing you all in New Orleans at Corrosion 2017. This concludes the first portion of the tutorial.